I guess GQ, and as fans of the racing game genre, over the years, we've seen some interesting cancellations of games. Of course, there's the fan favorite Blur 2, Criterion Games' spiritual successor to Burnout Beyond Cars, and Genki's ambitious open world Fast and Furious game from 2003. We've seen several racing games get cancelled over the years, but we haven't seen many racing games that are announced, never released, but are never cancelled. Those are games that are known as vaporware. And today I want to talk about two racing games that seem to disappear off the face of the earth, and I think we could easily consider vaporware. And of course there are more vaporware racing games than the two that I want to go into detail in on this video, such as XF Drive, which is a 3D arcade racing game but that goes for a 2D pixel art kind of style, the infamous racing sim Racing Legends, even newer racing sims like GTR 3, games going on with some legal issues like Drift Stage, and pretty much complete vaporware like Power Drive 2000. But in this video, I want to focus on two particular games that I find to have the most interesting stories. An ambitious open world racing game that almost doesn't seem to exist, and another racing game that looked amazing but was caught in a ton of legal issues. So while I did find other titles, these are the two that stood out most to me. And of course, I want to start off with Speed Elixir. Back in 2016, I made a video about how racing games in 2016 weren't doomed. I got ahead of myself a bit in that video because I said one of the reasons that the genre wasn't going to be dead in 2016 was because the Codemasters and Evolution collaboration game was coming out, not realizing that it would be, early in development at that time and would come out in 2018 and not even be a racing game. But on the other hand, I talked about Speed Elixir in that video. This was around the time it was announced, and it seems to be quite ambitious in a lot of areas, being touted as an open world game, having over 15 game modes, and not just having online multiplayer, but an online multiplayer system similar to Need for Speed Rivals' all-drive system. In fact, the game in general reminds me of Rivals quite a bit, from the reminiscent HUD to the forest area that they showed in the gameplay, to even the car of choice. It very much resembles Rivals, and while I personally didn't like Rivals, this looks like it could be something interesting. But it's a very basic tech demo from what we've seen, and that was 6 years ago. All from a company that doesn't seem to exist. Speed Elixir is made by Electro Phantom Games, which you can look up on Google and see that they have no employees on pretty much every website out there. In addition to the company apparently not existing, they're also using a game engine that apparently doesn't exist either. The game engine that Speed Elixir is apparently using is Alpha Beast, which if you try to find on Google, you will find absolutely nothing for. Everything about this game seems to look like some kind of college project someone would have made to make a mock-up video game. Considering that this game isn't listed on any digital storefronts, there apparently is no company, there is no info on the game engine, there are no individual staff that you can contact, there is no one individual person saying that they are part of the team. Everyone working on Speed Elixir seems to be completely anonymous, which raises a lot of eyebrows. But the thing that makes this game actually look real is the fact that there's real gameplay of it. And of course, you can fake renders, you can fake a trailer, all that, but the gameplay looks quite good for a company that doesn't seem to have any history or any record of even being a company. I don't think gameplay like this would just so easily be faked for a college project or a mock-up game to mess with people. Everything about this game screams something fake to me, except the gameplay. Other YouTubers have messaged the team, and they got a response back saying that the game is still being worked on 6 years later, with no more pictures or video, with no marketing, and a very, very basic email. Even if I were to contact the Speed Elixir team and get an email back, I doubt this game is actually coming out. But the gameplay looks just too good to be some sort of fake college project. And even then, if it was a college project, why would the website still be up? And people running the website are still replying to people asking about the game in email. Speed Elixir is actually quite baffling. It's a game that if you told me all the details about it but didn't show it to me, I would just assume it's something fake. But with all the details I've talked about, it doesn't seem to be completely fake. It has, however, on the website and its social media channels, fallen off the face of the earth. And even though the developers responded to an email in 2021, I would call this game vaporware. And while I question if Speed Elixir is actually a real game or not, the next game I want to talk about certainly is. 90s Super GP, or originally the 90s Arcade Racer, was a game that was supposed to be released on the Wii U eShop, PC, and Mac. And later on, it was also planned for mobile, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and even PlayStation Vita, which is quite the scope for a game being made by only one person. The game, as if you couldn't tell, is highly inspired by Sega's 90s arcade games, that being Scud Race, Sega Rally, and Daytona USA. Most indie racing games go for a more polygonal art style, but this game seems to have a bit more of a modern look to it with its lighting and shaders. Overall, it looks really impressive for being only made by one person. The environments look crazy good, even better than some AAA games I've seen. And the gameplay being shown on screen is nearly a decade old. That's how long it's been since this game was originally shown. And so far from what I can tell, the game's last update was in 2019. So what exactly happened to 90 Super GP? This game was being developed solo by Pelican 13X. The game was then partnered with indie game publisher Nicalis, which are widely known to ignore developers and then announce games and not release them for years or never release them at all. The game also increased in terms of content and scope, adding more cars, tracks, and even an online mode. The game was also stuck needing updates to the AI and car handling. The last update for the game was in September of 2019, with the latest new addition to the game being an online mode. No one outside the studio seems to have played the game other than one person that was at an anime convention that the game was apparently playable at, stating that the game was trash and that you won by scoring drift points. But the thing is, every build we've seen in this game has no drift point counter at all, so I'm a little bit unsure. Again, not saying this is false, but I'm just wondering why that would be the case. There's a more detailed video about the publisher and some of the legal issues with the game up on YouTube that will be in a card in the top right, but it's unfortunate to see the game in the state that it is now because it looked really cool. And I'm not someone who's nostalgic for Sega games. I didn't grow up in the 90s. I have been playing some of them more lately, and some of them are pretty fun, but this isn't really hitting any kind of nostalgia for me. What I like about this game is two things. One being an indie game that goes for more of a modern look instead of more of a retro look. It's obviously retro inspired, but it doesn't look like a game that would be from the 90s, more akin to something like Hot Shot Racing. It actually has, like I said, more modern lighting and shading. And two is that nothing new like this really comes out. Of course, we get some arcade racers, but nothing in the vein of this, especially with some of the crazy environments that I can see in the gameplay. It looked really cool. But the fraud with the game's Kickstarter, the publisher making fun of the game on April Fool's Day, and the developer not even being able to talk about the game, it seems safe to call this game vaporware. It's still listed on the publisher's website for being on PS4, Steam, and Switch, and the screenshots still look good, but whether we will actually see this game come out is another story. And with the track record of the publisher just sometimes not releasing games at all, I'm not sure. Anyways, those were two racing games that I consider vaporware that I wanted to talk about. Both of these games are quite interesting in their own ways, as Speed Elixir seems really ambitious for a game developer that doesn't seem to exist, and that the 90s Arcade Racer / 90s Super GP seems to be a really well polished and good looking game from only one person that was unfortunately caught up in legal issues with the game's publisher. Both of these projects seem to have something going on behind the scenes, but at least to me, they seem like something I can easily call vaporware. Anyways, I'm curious to see what do you guys think of these two games. If you think they look interesting, which one are you looking forward to more if they were to come out? Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.